I think most of us make the assumption, at least anybody who spent any time at church might make this assumption, that Jesus is always a popular guy, right? He's the center of our focus in our Sunday worship. The Bible stories all center on Jesus, and to be fair, it sure seems like a lot of the time everybody is praising or in awe of Jesus, the things he says, the things he does. He seems to be the life of the party wherever he goes. It might be hard for us to imagine that Jesus ever gets rejected, that Jesus is vilified, that Jesus isn't seen as the most fun person to be around all the time. And that can be hard if you have ever felt like you were left out, if you have ever felt like you weren't accepted, if you've ever felt like you weren't good enough, or that other people were judging you or condemning you, or that other people who you counted on weren't there for you. It can feel like, well, Jesus, he doesn't know what that feels like because he's always in the limelight. He's always at the center of attention, and everybody loves Jesus, because he's Jesus. That's why I think it is so important, surprisingly maybe, that we hear a difficult set of stories in Mark's 3rd chapter. It's the story we're going to be looking at this coming Sunday. And it starts with Jesus' family having heard the kinds of things he's doing, and they add their names to the long list of people who think that Jesus is in league with the devil. They see what Jesus has done. They see the commotion, the people who start to hang around him. They've probably seen or heard the stories about Jesus getting into trouble with the respectable religious leaders at the synagogue, about healing people on the Sabbath, and in some people's minds, breaking the Sabbath rules. And they look at Jesus and go, he's got a demon. He's in league with evil. They look at Jesus and think he's evil, and they don't want anything to do with him, or at least they want to sort of talk him down and make him act normal, make him fit their mold. And then this leads to a whole chorus of religious leaders who say, Jesus, you must be in league with the devil. That explains why you can do the things you do. In other words, they look at Jesus and their first reaction is not, we've been visited by God, but they look at Jesus and they go, we should reject him outright. He's in league with evil. Man, talk about being way off in your assessment, right? But what I find so helpful about hearing a story like that is to remember that there were people who interacted with Jesus, saw what he did, saw the ways he loved people, the way he stood up for people, the way he spoke against evil and cast out evil spirits, the way he healed people. There were some people who saw that and said, I don't want anything to do with him. He must be evil, and rejected him. Didn't want to have anything to do with him. In fact, there comes a scene, we'll hear this Sunday as well, when some of Jesus' family members, his mother and brothers and sisters, come to the house where Jesus is, and presumably Jesus is like, oh, here they are again, trying to get me to, close down my ministry because they're worried I'm going to be a scandal for them or a stain on the family reputation. And Jesus says to them, look, you know who really are my mother and brothers and sisters? Whoever does the will of God is my mother and brother and sister. In other words, Jesus is more interested in a new kind of family, a found family, so to speak. People who aren't bound by biology, people who aren't bound by blood or common ancestry, people who aren't bound by their sameness, but who are all seeking to do what God wants, and who are willing to be brought into a new kind of family, a found family, who have already experienced what it's like to be rejected by their own original biological family. It's helpful for me to know that Jesus knows what it's been like. Jesus knows what it is to be rejected by people that others might count on. Jesus knows what it's like to have an estranged relationship with family members, even really close family members, mother, brother, sisters, that kind of thing. And that Jesus doesn't say, well, I guess we're on our own, but Jesus invites us. If you've been in that place before, if you're there right now, Jesus invites us into a new kind of a community, and it's like family. It's like found family. Those people you surround yourself with who do love you, even if they don't share biology with you. The people who do support you, even for all the ways you are different or have been rejected before. I sometimes think that's the picture of what church ought to be, even for all the ways we sometimes misunderstand it and distorted into being like a social club or just a routine we are used to. But the church is meant to be found family, this place of welcome for people who've been told before people don't want to hang out with them, people who've been accused of being rotten and wicked and terrible, people who've been rejected before. The church is meant to be this place of welcome, this place where we find belonging. And that's what Jesus offers us. So if that's you, if you've been in that place before, where other people have said to you, you don't belong, where other relationships you counted on turned on you, if you've been in that place before, where you've been hurt before, what Jesus offers is a new kind of community grounded in his love, grounded in love that's been there, that's been rejected, and says, and I make a place for you at my table. There's a phenomenon spreading across a lot of elementary schools across the county, across the country, really, these days, where school will have what they call a buddy bench out at the playground. And it's this place where if you're feeling alone, if you could use a friend, you sit there and somebody else will notice that you're sitting on the buddy bench, will come and hang out with you. They know, oh, this person would like to be included. It's a small, simple gesture. Man, it's got to take a lot of courage if you're the one who is willing to say out loud publicly, I'm sitting on the buddy bench, I could use a friend right now. But in some ways, that's what the community of Jesus is meant to be. This place where if you're wounded, if you've been abandoned before, if you feel like others have rejected you for whatever other ways you were different, whatever other ways you didn't fit in, followers of Jesus gather together and say, we welcome you. And we honor that it takes an awful lot of courage to step out and say, I've been rejected before, I've been hurt before, and I'm looking for a place that will welcome me as I am. That's what it is to be church. That's the conversation we're having this coming Sunday as we take a look at these stories from Mark's 3rd chapter and discover Jesus, as much as he can be the life of the party, sometimes knows what it is to be the one who's rejected. And instead of being bitter about it or withdrawing even further, he creates a new community of welcome for all kinds of people, for you, for me. Join us for that conversation this Sunday. See you then.